Welcome back to another TerranScapes video. This video is an update on the large cliff project that I've been working on. Incorporates some lighting components and has multiple features on it. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thanks for joining me on this crazy train. And you can go back, that's the back finger, and look at some of the videos previously done on this, which show a little bit of work in progress as well as some of the design intentions. So at this stage, I've made some slow progress on it. As I mentioned before, I changed the lighting. I had a little hiccup there, but I got that worked out. And what I've done is finish the interior passageway, but I'm juggling a couple projects at the moment, but I'm sort of continuing to clear my plate so I can focus on this a little bit more. But what I'd like to show you today is the interior of that passageway. It's now been painted and lit. And then it's pretty much at its final stage now, and I can begin to build around it to complete the rest of the superstructure. So let's take a look at it and I'll show you what I've done. So here you can see the entrance to the passageway. This is what I showed last time on an unfinished form, and just as a reminder for those of you who maybe forgot, it's a sort of interior passageway within the large superstructure, so there's going to be a large cliff piece coming up over this, entombing this, if you will, in the interior. And you see just a couple blocks leaning up against these back panels just to hold them in place. So there's still a tiny bit of light leak coming in, but it's pretty well contained for this video. And what I did end up doing is in these back sections here, I did end up lining them in aluminum foil just to give a little bit more reflectivity to the lights, push that out a bit, into the interior of the passageway, because I had to set them quite a ways back so they wouldn't be visible. So anyway, that gives you a little look at the structure. So what I did is I worked on the flooring, and we'll show you the interior in just a second. But I figured, since I wanted the floor out here to match the inside floor, at least in color and relative texture, I figured I'd install that right now. I have not installed the facing to this piece, however, and you can see there's a large gap. I'm going to use a 2-inch thick piece to carve for the entrance so I can get some relief into the texture and runes that I'm going to put on sort of the Celtic patterns that will go on here. You'll notice that what I've done is I've tried to find some Celtic patterns online and transfer them to the foam. And actually, I think that came out really well. I used the Hotwire Foam Factory Engraver, which is a Hotwire tool, to put that in. And I didn't want to add the facing at this point, mainly because I'm unsure of how the foam is going to come around it. And so, leaving it open and adjustable for later allows me to cut it if I need to fit it into rock areas, or, it gives me some flexibility for down the road. So let's take a look on the inside here. Now, this camera does not resolve dark areas very well, which actually may add to the effect for this, but it doesn't give you quite an entirely accurate view of it. So what I'm doing here is trying to show you, so that's the maximum sort of angle you'll be able to see with your eye, and that shows you the stairway going down off to the left. And then when you look from this way, and this will be the maximum viewpoint pretty much, there we go, from this angle, you can see the two passageways going off to the right. And what I've done is I've put in some runes on the walls. That way, sort of gives it a little bit of something to look at in the interior, and I've carried those, all the way out to the wall on the side here. And again, it's a little dark. This camera does not resolve dark areas very well. And before anybody comments on the runes, are they great for dwarves or, not accurate or whatever, don't give me a hard time. I found some runes online that said dwarf runes, and I just copied those to put them in, and they seemed thematically appropriate. So that gives you a sense of how the lighting is working, and I think it really does give a nice effect. You can, get a sense of the two passageways leading on. I'm fairly okay with the flicker rate of the lights at this point to sort of model torch flickering. It's not entirely right, but I'm going to accept that for now. I think it's convincing enough that I'm happy with it. And you can see on the floor, well, maybe we can't. It's more visible in the light. Perhaps you can see it around the corner. There you go. You can see one in the brighter light. Oh, and from this angle you can see the floor a little bit better here. I've inscribed, knot patterns into the floor and around the corner there, and there is one in the far back there that's a little hard to see. I think you can resolve it there at this point. Which I think just really dresses up that floor. I didn't want to put in, you know, stonework that is similar to the roof. You know, you can see here on the upper sides, I've done stonework similar to the walls, and actually I carried that up onto the roof. Oh, there you go. And I wanted something a little bit different for the floor, and actually for a second I was thinking about putting in like hexagon tiles into the base of the floor, and that just looked terrible. So I ended up putting in these very, very thin flat sheets of foam, as I did not want to create a rise, you know, stepping up, as I wanted to preserve the height and give a very thin platform here. So you can see just how thin that sheet is of foam. Plane that down so I could get a nice thin sheet, but deep enough that I could scribe into it without cutting all the way through it. And I think it gives a really nice effect. And for the dramatic shift here, let me see if I can prop the camera. Patience. And so now you can see the second effect, which is a pulsing green glow. I wanted to have two effects. Oh, there. I wanted to have two effects in here, just to give it a little bit of variation for playability, and this effect is actually a little bit brighter as the LEDs run at full output for this program, so it throws a little bit more light, and then you can see the actual floor work, of course, a little bit easier, as well as the runes in the far back. So that gives you a little sense of the two effects, and I should add that I'm actually having a little bit of trouble with these two effects intermingling, and that sometimes they get a little glitchy. And I'm not entirely sure if it is the program itself or whether it is the chips that are running the LEDs. And what I've found is if I power it down and then power it up under the second effect, then it's much more stable. So that's just a little something that the customer would have to do, is just flip the off switch and then flip the switch to the effect he wants and then flip it back on. But that's really not too arduous, and I'll be taking a look at these lighting effects more closely as I progress, just to make sure it's all running appropriately before I ship it out. So I might have a little more tinkering to do, but overall I like the two effects that I have here. And that gives you a little sense of what the interior passageway looks like with the lighting now. So that gives you a look at the interior and the lighting effects, and I forgot to mention a few things when we were taking a look inside. One is that when you look at the pulsing green glow, greenish blue, it isn't in sync, and I was originally thinking of having them all going at once, but it turns out that the programmable chips, each of those lights in there have their own individual chip, and the chips get out of sync with each other over time, and there's probably a way to fix it. I'm not looking into it. I'm happy with the way it is. The other thing that was kind of interesting, I've been letting them run all day sometimes, prolonged periods of time, to see if they're stable, and I was running them off a 9-volt battery, and they killed the battery. It wasn't a brand new battery, mind you, but it clearly is drawing a little bit more current than I expected, so I'm going to have to go and put in current. I'm going to have to put in a bigger bank of batteries. I think if I can run it safely off of 4 D cells, for instance, that should give it quite a bit of run time during long gaming sessions, let's say. And lastly, if you remember the video back, I've left the floor that is resting on unglued down, as I'm still not quite sure whether I'm going to run the wires below or run the wires to the top for the switch and the battery access. So once I actually build up the structure around it and get to the next plateau level, I'm going to leave that unfixed as well, and at that point I'll decide whether to run the wires up or down. So that still gives me plenty of time to play with the light, make sure that they're running stable, and check what that glitch is and see if that's something that's going to get worse over time, or whether it's relatively stable in the sense that you can just unpower it and then it it resets and then you power it back up. So I'll keep taking a look at that, but there's plenty of time to do that as well. So hopefully you enjoyed taking a look at this phase of the project, and I encourage you to stay tuned to the channel. Of course, in the next major phase that I complete, I'll be coming back with another work in progress video. So if you're curious about that, I hope you'll join me. And of course, questions and comments, always welcome down below. I read everyone. I try to respond to most of them. And again, thank you to all the people who have subscribed, and a welcome to all the new subscribers. I seem to be gathering subscribers every day, and it's very flattering, so I appreciate that. Anyway, I'm rambling, so stay tuned to the channel for more updates, and I'll be back soon.